Okay, this is the second video on Spielmann versus Wahle, played in Vienna in 1926, a French exchange variation. And I just discussed Black's ninth move of g6 and how it was preventing White from moving its knight to f4, but how it weakened these three squares on the king side. So now for White's 10th move, White will castle, but maybe we should just look at the king safety or the positional aspects of the game. When I talk about evaluating a position, I talk about tactics, and there aren't sort of tactics going on right now. Material is actually even though it's an exchange between a knight and a bishop, which can later come into play later. King safety, actually White's king I think is slightly more safe, assuming Black's going to castle kingside because of the weakening of the pawns around the king. Remember, the king safety comes pawn, I use the term plead, pawn shield, open lines, well, that's sort of equal. Escape squares, technically White has a few more escape squares than Black, and attackers and defenders. So White is actually slightly safer, but after this move, White's next move, 10th move, where castles, definitely the White king is safer. Ideally this knight here would be on the f3 square. This would be an ideal sort of fortress for the king. So White's position now is that its pawn shield is excellent. The attackers, defenders, for king safety versus Black, White is much safer now. But of course, Black were the castle, we'd have a similar position, but once again, the main difference in the king safety would be the pawns. So what is Black's 10th move is c6, basically supporting the center. It also opens up a diagonal for the queen, but probably that's less important. And then White's 11th move is rook on a to e1. I think the biggest question for a person could be, why not rook on f to e1? Well, the idea is that White is probably going to potentially roll this f pawn up and up the king side. So it would be nice if the two rooks were on these two squares, because you want to place your rook on an open file, or where it's likely to be opened. And if we look at the potential squares for opening, the A file probably not, the B, C, D are probably not going to be open, and the G and H are not going to be open. It's probably going to be the E and F files. Well, this rook here is already on the F file, so there's no reason to move it. So that's why White brought its rook on A over to the E file, because these two files are probably the files that are going to be opened in the game. That's why White did not move its rook on F to E1. So now Black castles, so increasing its king safety. But in doing so, White now has a tactic. You have to ask yourself, basically, this piece here, this knight here, is pinned, meaning if the knight was to move, White could win this bishop here. So this pin is very annoying to Black, and White is going to now exploit this in a sacrifice, and turn it into where White can win more material in the end and then the game. So to preserve this pin, white actually takes the bishop, takes out the defender. Now black is forced to recapture. And now black would have to ask itself, well, how's it ever going to free this knight? So this knight here is a sitting duck. A pinned piece is an immobile piece. It can't really go anywhere. It has to be defended, and it can't move. So, and since it can't move, it's really easy to attack a target that can't move. So now white will play queen to f3, the second attacker. The knight's only defended once, so white's threatening to win the knight. And now, how should black defend the knight? Well, it looks like there's only two moves, in my opinion. There's the king here, and there's the bishop moving to here, sort of. The king moving up is just adding another defender. The bishop to f4 is blocking, sort of interfering with the attack. So it's blocking or interfering the queen from attacking the knight. The problem with if the bishop moves up is that white has this nice sequence of it will just take the bishop, and then the pawn has to retake, and then the queen now comes to g3, so white is now threatening mate. Just capture the knight and its mate. And well, now what is the black to do, really? There are no good moves. Sort of, the only two real moves for black is moving the king up and moving the king to the side. If black moves the king up, then white just takes, the king takes, check with the queen, king comes over, and then check, and the queen's a goner. But what about if the king goes to the side? Well, now it's queen to h4, now threatening to win the knight. The king has to come up now, and then queen to h6, back, and bam. So obviously the bishop, interfering with the bishop doesn't work, so the king has to come up and defend. And now white plays this beautiful move to keep to really win material, sort of get up some material to win some more material. Knight on c to e4, putting in a third attacker, so black takes it. White takes back with the knight. Now there's three pieces attacking the knight. The knight's a gone. Now just remember, black is still at material, but black's at material, but going to lose the game. The queen now moves to break the pin. Maybe the knight can move away, but all is lost now, because now white will win back some of its material. Now it's actually only down. White actually has a knight and a pawn for a rook, so it's actually technically only down one pawn or 1 point. But black's going to lose the game because the king goes back, and now the queen comes to f4, and there's nothing that really black can do to prevent queen to h6 and then checkmate, unless it wants to give up the queen, but that was obviously a loss. So that is Spielmann versus Wahle.